Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio, and I'm coming to you today talking about domestic violence. This is a 1-hour show this morning, and I'm streaming live on internet radio, blogtalkradio.com. So I'm so glad that you're here, and if you're going to sit in on this show, make sure you grab a coffee, and I just wish you all the best. This is New Year's Eve, and what better time to talk about domestic violence and the issues surrounding it. And I'm just so excited about this show. I did a small show last night actually at 9:30, and it just wasn't enough time to cover what I wanted to cover and what I thought would be very helpful for people who are suffering from domestic violence or who have suffered from domestic violence. And I actually got cut off my show. So if that happens today, just hold on, and I'll be back, because if I get cut off, I just have to reboot my computer and go back in, and it takes a few minutes. So make sure you hang in there. And it's a live show, so if you want to phone in and you want to be on the air, I welcome everyone to come on the show, and if I miss you on the switchboard, just hang in there. And the guest call-in number is area code 917-889-3736. And it's 1 hour today. I don't usually do 1-hour shows, but I'm on throughout the week, and I just keep it to half-hour shows or 15-minute shows. But this is some great information I want to bring to you today, and I want to share with you, as I am a second-hand victim of domestic violence. So growing up in an abusive home, and suffered from the effects of domestic violence from my parents. So it's very important to me, this issue of domestic violence, and I've recently come across some great organizations doing some awesome work, and I wanted to share that with you. I have my chat window up, and you're welcome to sit in the chat room. I do check my chat room periodically. I mostly read from articles that I find, and but if you're in the chat room, just hang in there. If you have a question, or if you have something you want to be made public, please do leave me a message there. And if you would like it to be private between me and you, make sure you just put private at the very beginning of the message, and that way I know not to read it on the air. So we'll just get started here. Last night I was talking about, and I'm just going to kind of continue that and add some more information, because we just didn't get to cover everything. So I wanted to talk about a petition that is that is out there right now, and it's on gopetition.com, and you can go there by just typing in your browser www.gopetition.com. And you can see there's under the latest petitions, there is a petition there, and it's called Add Cyberstalking to Restraining Orders. And that is a petition that's started by Deanna Phelps, and she's in Northern California, Redding, California, and she's an awesome lady. She's an advocate, a victim's rights advocate and counselor, and she brought this to my attention. I'm on Facebook, and she's a friend of mine on Facebook, as well as a mentor and just someone who's very inspirational in my life. And she brought this to our attention, that this petition, if they can get 5,000 signatures, they can add cyberstalking to restraining orders. They can send this off to Washington, D.C., to the White House, to get it passed as a law. And this is so important, because anyone who has ever suffered from domestic violence or been involved in a domestic violence situation knows how important it is, because internet stalking is a crime. And so I'm going to go ahead and read what she wrote here. I asked her to sort of write me up a little some information, and I just so I can pass it on to you, the listener. And it's very, very interesting and important, because she writes here, internet stalking is a crime. Internet harassment, or cyberstalking, is the new wave of stalking and harassment. Cyberstalking involves using the internet or other electronic means to harass. A January 2009 U.S. Department of Justice report found that 23% of stalking victims suffered some form of cyberstalking, and 6% suffered electronic monitoring such as spyware, bugging, or video surveillance. which is just astounding to me. Please sign the petition to add cyberstalking to any and all restraining orders. If we get 5,000 signatures, we can send this to the White House to make it a law. Please go to the website and sign the petition. And I wrote in there, I just put in there, you never know who this could benefit, you or someone you love. Or she might have wrote that. But anyway, that's the way it is. This could affect you down the road. It could be affecting you right now. It could be affecting a friend of yours, whether it's a woman or a man. And this is the sort of thing that's going on today, and it needs to stop. And I'm just one more voice. This is child abuse prevention, and human rights abuse prevention is up to us. And I do shows regarding mostly child abuse and human rights, and domestic violence fits right in there. We all have basic human rights that need to be upheld, and unless we speak up for those rights and actually get some changes made, this stuff is just going to keep going on and on. So I'm a real big supporter of this petition. I went and signed it myself, and go to www.gopetition.com and look for the latest petitions. It's called Add Cyberstalking to Restraining Orders, and I really hope that you'll do that. And so this is some great information, because I was actually quite unaware and wasn't thinking about that as being a problem within the realm of abuse. And internet stalking, that's a big issue these days. So get on the web and search it out for yourself and find out what's really going on, because there is some crazy things happening, and we need to stop it. We need to put a stop to it. Everyone has a right to their own protection, and their own the right to life, and the right to their own healthy life. And so that's what this show is all about. And if you would like to phone in, please do. My guest call-in number again is 917-889-3736. If you have something you want to add, or a great resource for listeners who might be listening out there. And I'll just tell you a little bit about Deanna Phelps. She is a director of Silver Braid Domestic Violence Resource and Education, which you can find. Her website is it's on. She just had designed a new website, and it's awesome. It's a great resource, and it is you just type into your browser Silver Braid NorCal. That's all one word. Silver Braid NorCal.weebly. That's WEEBLY.com. Silverbraid NorCal.weebly.com, and she is a victim rights advocate, counselor. She is a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault, as Deanna is a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault as well as childhood trauma. She empowered herself to get back to school and took the domestic violence and sexual assault crisis intervention course, and has become a victim rights advocate. She is spreading awareness that this kind of violence is out there. She helps people empower themselves to make a difference in their lives. She gives advice and resources. Right now, she has a petition on the works to put cyberstalking and internet harassment of any kind on all restraining orders. She is an advocate on Facebook as well as MySpace. She has joined with Silver Braid Support and is district manager for the Redding, California area, and hopefully soon will be holding support meetings. So they're getting set up to do the Silver Braid support meetings, which is just awesome. And you can find out about Silver Braid by just going to silverbraid.org. But her website, silverbraid.norcal.weebly.com, is a great resource. I went on there. I've been on there and checking it out. And you can see there's resources for women and for men, because let's not forget that men are victims too of domestic violence and sexual assault and everything else. And we can't brush this under the carpet. We can't just silence it and put everybody in their nice little corner and tell them to be quiet anymore. People need to speak up, and people need to speak out. There's some great people out there doing some great work, and we all need to listen to them, and we all need to get a voice. There's resources for there's community outreach, and also there's a little bio on Deanna and the NorCal meetings when they're held. So I really want to suggest that you go on there, www.silverbraid.org. That's the main organization. The Silver Braid is a symbol of hope and redemption. The Silver Braid has 3 strands, and I'll just read these out again. I read them out last night, but I'm going to read them out again. The first strand is survivors. bringing together all the forms of survivors. Often survivors from various forms of exploitation feel isolated, whether they are victims of domestic violence or childhood exploitation. We believe survivors share similar after effects. The second strand in the braid, in the silver braid, is the communities. And they're all interwoven in there, right? And the third strand of the silver braid is spiritual principles. So that's just that's just their program. In our program, we have developed a symbol to describe the set of tools and techniques that we find useful on our recovery path. The silver braid is a symbol of both integration and interconnectedness. Your recovery and participation in this program is vital for the creation of the silver braid. Strand by strand, as one survivor connects with another, together we create the silver braid. Together we will stand and break this cycle of humiliation and not be defeated by those that have abused us. Together we will heal. And their hotline number, you can write this down if you need this. This is so important. Their hotline number is 1-888-702-7273. And you can go on their website, and she says feel free to post on the website's bulletin board. The work they do is very important. Joining hands to help stop sexual exploitation is essential to survivors. Stopping domestic violence and sexual assault in our communities and our spiritual growth. We are here to help those that are hurting and in need of our support. This is what Deanna Phelps has written here. And need of our support and help. We can all learn something new from one another and help each other grow and heal. Please don't be afraid to share your experiences if you are ready. As a team, we are raising awareness about domestic violence and sexual assault. We are working with the community as well as starting the fire that leads to laws changing in favor of men, women, and children who are in abusive situations or recovering from abusive situations. So that's from Deanna Phelps, and I really suggest that you go on to her website. And if you miss something, just be sure, and you can just send me a message on blogtalkradio.com, or you can phone in on the show, and just if you want some more information, or you can sit in my chat room. And so I'm a member of Silver Braid, the Silver Braid organization as well. I'm a secondhand victim of domestic violence, which means I suffered under the hands of domestic violence in my home while growing up, and it spread to the children, and it definitely had its effect on us. And domestic violence is a real problem. It's an epidemic, really, epidemic proportions, because everyone knows in their own life how stressful life can be at times, and many of us just don't have the coping skills. And things happen, horrible things happen to people all the time, and we know that's just life, right? But there is help for you, and if you need any of the resources that I have, I really want you to call me or get in touch with me, because if you can't find them, we'll find them together, because this is so important that we get the help that we need. And it's just, we all deserve to have a good life, and I just believe that it can happen as long as we keep reaching out. So if you're suffering from domestic violence, if you're someone, a woman or a man in a home right now who is suffering from abuse, please get help. I cannot tell you how strongly I feel about that. Make sure that you get the help that you need. And if your life is being threatened and your children's lives are being threatened, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your children, really, first and foremost, to get them out of that situation and get them into a healthy situation. It takes time. And it doesn't always, happen right away. We see that quite a bit. And it doesn't always happen the way that we want it to. But you have to make that phone call. You have to phone 911, because your life could be in danger, and you could save your life, and you could save your children's lives. And that is so important. It's very important to me, and it should be very important to you, because you do matter, and you do count. And I want you to tune into my shows. And if you're not getting what you need off of this show, because I'm not a qualified counselor, and I'm not qualified to give any legal advice. I'm just one child abuse survivor coming, just talking publicly about things that need to be brought out into the public light. And, our voices just cannot be silenced anymore. And there's so many people, victims of domestic violence and child abuse whose voices have been silenced forever. And we need to speak up for them. we need to stand up for them, and we need to make sure that our voices are heard so that this stops, because this could be your sister going through this domestic violence, or your aunt, or this could be your uncle. Yes, believe it or not. Many people have the idea that domestic violence is just strictly directed towards women, but that's actually very false. And even in my own home, my mom was very abusive to my father. They were both abusive to each other. So it wasn't just one person picking on the other one. They were both very abusive towards each other, and my mother used to batter my father. My father used to, in turn, batter her and the children, and then in turn, my mother would batter the children, and so it just became a vicious cycle. And I just want you to know that everyone hurts from domestic violence when it's around. I've had friends who, this is just my own personal testimony here. Friends of mine have been involved in domestic violence situations and grew up in homes with domestic violence. And it does carry on. It is a cycle. It needs to be broken. And you can get help. I know myself. I'm walking out child abuse issues. And I find as I'm searching through the internet for this Blog Talk Radio show that there's all kinds of resources out there. And, you can, all you have to do is reach out. You have to keep reaching out. And so if you're suffering from domestic abuse, I really hope that you will listen to what I'm saying and go get the help you need. You deserve to have a better life. You deserve to be abuse-free. And I've met so many people in my walk who have just proved that to me lately. I'm going to give you those resources here, and some of them I actually have in my chat room. If you'd like to check my chat room out, you can see that there's quite a bit of resources listed there for anyone, women, men, just whoever's suffering from domestic violence or any kind of child abuse. So what I thought I'd do is read from this helpguide.org, because this is such a great resource. And it is, you can find it at www.helpguide.org. And these guys, they have information there not just on domestic violence, but on child abuse issues as well, and really all abuse and mental health issues. So it's really just a help guide, and that's why they called it helpguide.org. And if you go on there, I was on there looking around, and I saw that the actual founders of this organization, it's a nonprofit organization that works to help people. They're a family that I if you go on there, I don't want to quote them, but they said I think they lost their daughter to suicide due to domestic violence. I don't want to quote that, so you want to go check that out. Anyway, they really care, and that's why they've put this website together. So I would suggest that you go on there and check it out, because it is some good information. So I hope that you can get something out of this. I know that I sure did. This article covers everything really related to domestic violence and abuse, from signs of abuse to understanding domestic violence and abuse, why it happens, and that men can be victims too. Recognizing abuse is the first step to getting help. That's what they're talking about there. Signs of an abusive relationship. If you're just not sure and you're thinking, oh, is it just me, or is this really an abusive relationship, because it could be a relatively new relationship, or, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or, a partner who just, who seems so great at first, and then all of a sudden things start happening that, you're wondering if it's just you causing it. And this is some good information for you, and it really puts it into place for, even for me, what I grew up with, and what people are going through right now. So there's also information here on the different forms of domestic violence, which is like physical violence, as well as emotional or psychological abuse, sexual abuse, economic or financial abuse, and all of those are part of it. And there's also stuff here about violent and abusive behavior is the abuser's choice. So this is really interesting information. Also, the cycle of violence in domestic abuse is on there, which is really good to look at, just to see how the cycle repeats itself, and recognizing the warning signs of domestic violence and abuse. And that's important. And that's like if you have a coworker or a friend or a family member who, this is a way you can sort of see you can sort of see the signs that maybe there isn't a problem with abuse in their home, and then what to do about it. Speak up if you suspect domestic violence or abuse, and here's do's and don'ts about speaking up and confronting the issue with someone, right, who you think might be in a domestic violence situation. I know my sister is very private about her life, so I'm not going to go into any details, but she went through a bit of domestic violence herself, and we could tell in the family. We all knew because her behavior was different, and even after she divorced her husband, she admitted to the fact that there was some domestic violence there, and we noticed it. But growing up in an abusive home didn't say anything really. We were all really wanting for her to get out of the marriage, but we didn't really talk about it because we didn't talk about anything, period, right? Because we grew up in a situation where we were told not to talk about it, and I had my life threatened by my mother, who told me not to ever mention anything about what went on in our family. So this sort of thing can happen to people. It happens to people like me. It can happen to people like you. It can happen to anyone. And so we'll just read through here and look at some of this information. I also have a little, it's like a wheel. It's called a power and control wheel that was put out by the Texas Council on Family Violence. And it says, is your relationship based on power and control? That's really quite interesting. And then here's another one from the Texas Council on Family Violence. Is your relationship based on equality? And so we'll look at some of that too. And this is a live streaming Blog Talk Radio show, and I'm so glad that you're here with me. And we'll just start looking at some of this stuff here. Signs of abuse and abusive relationships. This is right from their page. I'm just reading from thehelpguide.org. Domestic violence and abuse can happen to anyone, yet the problem is often overlooked, excused, or denied. This is especially true when the abuse is psychological rather than physical. Emotional abuse is often minimized, yet it can leave deep and lasting scars. Noticing and acknowledging the warning signs and symptoms of domestic violence and abuse is the first step to ending it. No one should live in fear of the person they love. If you recognize yourself or someone you know in the following warning signs and descriptions of abuse, don't hesitate to reach out. There is help available. That's what they said in this article. So it's just great information. Understanding domestic violence and abuse. Domestic abuse, also known as spousal abuse, occurs when one person in an intimate relationship or marriage tries to dominate and control the other person. Domestic abuse that includes physical violence is called domestic violence. Domestic violence and abuse are used for one purpose, and one purpose only, to gain and maintain total control over you. An abuser doesn't play fair. Abusers use fear, guilt, shame, and intimidation to wear you down and keep you under their thumb. Your abuser may also threaten you, hurt you, or hurt those around you. And they also mention here, men can be victims too. Women are not the only victims of domestic violence and abuse. Men also suffer from domestic abuse, especially verbal and emotional abuse, and may be even more ashamed to seek help because men are, supposed to be strong and they're not. How could a man let a woman, treat them that way, sort of thing? Well, I know firsthand in my own family that can happen, and so domestic abuse. Recognizing abuse is the first step to getting help. And domestic abuse often escalates from threats and verbal abuse to physical violence and even murder. And while physical injury may be the most obvious danger, the emotional and psychological consequences of domestic abuse are also severe. No one deserves this kind of pain, and your first step to breaking free is recognizing that your situation is abusive. Once you acknowledge the reality of the abusive situation, then you can get the help that you need. So, yeah, we just need to recognize that it is abusive, and that we need to get help. So, signs of an abusive relationship. There are many signs of an abusive relationship. The most telling sign is fear of your partner. If you feel like you have to walk on eggshells around your partner, constantly watching what you say and do in order to avoid a blow-up, chances are your relationship is unhealthy and abusive. Other signs that you may be in an abusive relationship include a partner who belittles you or tries to control you, and feelings of self-loathing, helplessness, and desperation. So that's some of the signs there. To determine whether your relationship is abusive, answer the questions below. The more yes answers, the more likely it is that you're in an abusive relationship. Signs. So here they have these questions here. Signs that you're in an abusive relationship. Your inner thoughts and feelings. So they ask here, if you can answer yes to these questions, then that means that you might be in an abusive relationship. So here's some questions. Do you feel afraid of your partner much of the time? Do you avoid certain topics out of fear of angering your partner? Do you feel that you can't do anything right for your partner? Do you believe that you deserve to be hurt or mistreated? Do you wonder if you're the one who is crazy? And do you feel emotionally numb or helpless? And those are some really good questions. I know growing up in the home that I grew up in, this was very much the norm. And for both my parents and for the children, right? Very dysfunctional. And so these are really good questions. Here's one. Your partner's belittling behavior. Does your partner humiliate or yell at you, criticize you, and put you down? Treat you so badly that you're embarrassed for your friends or family to see? Ignore or put down your opinions or accomplishments? Do you blame you for his own abusive behavior? And do you see you as property or a sex object rather than as a person? Oh, does your partner blame you for his own abusive behavior or see you as property or a sex object rather than a person? So this is some really good information here. Your partner's violent behavior or threats. Does your partner have a bad and unpredictable temper? Does your partner hurt you or threaten to kill you or to hurt you or kill you? Does your partner threaten to take your children away or harm them? Does your partner threaten to commit suicide if you leave? Does your partner force you to have sex? Does your partner destroy your belongings? So if you can answer yes to these questions, then you know you're in an abusive relationship. And your partner's controlling behavior. Does your partner act excessively jealous and possessive? Does your partner control where you go or what you do? Does your partner limit your access to money, the phone, or the car? Does your partner constantly check up on you? If you answer yes to these questions, chances are that you are in an abusive relationship, and it's really just time to get help. And there's some helpline numbers here. You can call 911 if you feel that if you're afraid for your safety, or if you've been abused by your partner. Call 911 or call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-787-3224. And this is so important. I really want you to do that. And if you're being abused and you're in a situation right now where your life is being threatened and you're on a regular basis, and your children, or if you have children and they're involved and their lives are being threatened, leave the show, go call 911 and phone that 1-800-787-3224 domestic violence hotline and get some help. It's very important. You can come back to the show later once you've gotten some help. I really want people to get some help. And if you've, like me, and you're just walking through your healing, I'm so glad that you're here. Physical violence is just one form of domestic abuse. When people think of domestic abuse, they often picture battered women who have been physically assaulted. But not all domestic abuse involves violence. Just because you're not battered and bruised doesn't mean you're not being abused. Domestic violence abuse takes many forms, including psychological, emotional, and sexual abuse. These types of abuse are less obvious than physical abuse, but that doesn't mean they're not damaging. In fact, these types of domestic abuse can be even more harmful because they are so often overlooked, even by the person being abused. And emotional scars really last a lifetime, really, unless you get help. And so I'm a survivor of child abuse, and it was both physical and verbal and emotional and psychological and sexual and everything else. And I tell you, the scars that really are still there are the emotional scars. And so you don't want to suffer with that in silence, and you do deserve to have a good life walking free of abuse. And so if you're someone out there who has, been in an abusive situation, whether it's domestic violence or child abuse, and you have these emotional scars, please reach out and find some resources that work for you. I know not everything works for everyone. We're all different, and we all have different ways of handling things and different ways of approaching things, and we learn differently and we think differently. And so find the resources that work for you, and you're only going to be able to do that by reaching out and start looking around to find out what is available, what is out there. And if you need help finding that information, contact me or contact, your local area, crisis lines. That's what I would suggest, because those people are qualified. I'm just, a survivor speaking on Blog Talk Radio, just trying to get the word out. But, I know myself that if I was in a situation right now where I couldn't handle it, or if I was in a situation where, if I had children and I was concerned for their life, I would be phoning a crisis line, and I would be phoning 911. I'd be getting some help. It's very important. Do not live with this kind of abuse. We have to stop it. And it really starts with you and me. And that's why I say, child abuse prevention and human rights abuse prevention is up to us. It's up to me. It's up to you. We have to stand up and we have to raise our voices and say, enough is enough. So emotional or psychological abuse, the aim, I'm reading right from this article I found. I'm still reading from helpguide.org. And it's just some great information. So emotional or psychological abuse, the aim of emotional or psychological abuse is to chip away at your feelings of self-worth and independence. If you're the victim of emotional abuse, you may feel that there is no way out of the relationship, or that without your abusive partner, you have nothing. Emotional abuse includes verbal abuse, such as yelling, name-calling, blaming and shaming. Isolation, intimidation, and controlling behavior also fall under emotional abuse. Additionally, abusers who use emotional or psychological abuse often throw in threats of physical violence. So, I grew up like that in my own home, and watching my parents treat each other that way, and then, having my mother pass that down to me, mostly a little bit from my dad, but mostly my mother. And you may think that physical abuse is far worse than emotional abuse, since physical violence can send you to the hospital and leave you with scars. But the scars of emotional abuse are very real, and they run deep. In fact, emotional abuse can be just as damaging as physical abuse, sometimes even more so. Furthermore, emotional abuse usually worsens over time, often escalating to physical battery. Yep, and it often escalates, emotional abuse often escalates to emotional problems, which leads to drug use, which leads to, a life of just a really sad life, and even suicide. And in my own family, because we didn't get the help that we needed, there was quite a few of my siblings and I turned to drugs, and not together, but all separate. But we all, we just took it one step further, and we're just carrying on the destruction of our lives ourselves by doing drugs. And I lost one of my brothers to suicide, and another brother to a drug overdose, and myself, when my brother committed suicide, I decided to that I really wanted to not go that route, that my life was worth living, and that I really wanted to have a good life, because I had never really felt that I was worth anything growing up. And this can happen in a domestic violence situation too. If your partner's telling you that you're worthless, and that you don't mean anything, and that you're just useless or whatever, it starts to wear you down. And you have to see yourself. You have to look at yourself with a different set of eyes than someone's given you. You have to see yourself as an empowered person, whether you're a man or a woman. You have to see yourself as someone who does not deserve to be treated that way. No one does, and that's why I fight for human rights for everyone, including children. So you need to get a different view of yourself. You need to first of all realize that it's not your fault, and that this was put on you by someone else, and you need to stop looking at yourself through their eyes and start seeing you who you really are, which is a person who deserves a much better life. And you have to make that happen. And the only way you can do that is by reaching out and getting help. And I'm on a few of these awesome chat groups that I found just recently that I find so helpful. And one is the silverbraid.org. I belong to a Ning group, and it's a faith-based group for Silver Braid, and it's awesome. The support there is so good. It's for domestic violence or sexual assault or sexual abuse, child sexual abuse, just any of that stuff. You can go on to these chat rooms, and you don't even have to use your own name. You can just use a fake name if you don't want to identify yourself by your real name, or if you're in danger of someone checking up on you, you can use an anonymous name, and you can go in and talk to people who have had the same issues in their life or somewhat similar, and who have been treated the same way, and how you can find out from them how they dealt with it and what's working for them, and what seems to be helping them get through their day, because this is what it's all about. We need to heal, we need to keep walking it out, and we need to realize that there is hope. And that's what my brothers did not realize. They never found any hope in this life. They continued on in their destructive lives and are consequently not here with us today. And so, because they didn't reach out, they never reached out to get the help that they needed. And if they did, they just didn't keep going. And that's why on all my shows you hear me just talking all the time about keep going, keep walking it out, because that's important. Because one day you're gonna run into something, you're gonna come across some great information that just makes sense to you, and you're gonna end up finding a path for your healing. And so it's very important just to keep walking it out and keep going. So we'll look here at sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is common in abusive relationships. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, between 1/3 and 1/2 of all battered women are raped by their partners at least once during their relationship. Any situation in which you are forced to participate in unwanted, unsafe, or degrading sexual activity is sexual abuse. Forced sex, even by a spouse or intimate partner with whom you also have consensual sex, is an act of aggression and violence. Furthermore, women whose partners abuse them physically and sexually are at a higher risk of being seriously injured or killed. And this is so serious. This is so incredibly serious. I can't even tell you the damaging effects from that. If you haven't gone through it, we need to make sure that we stand up for those around us who have. And a lot of people think, oh, how could you call that rape? Well, it is rape. If it's unwanted, it's rape. So, that happened in my own family. I witnessed it myself, and it's not funny. It's not something that should be swept under the carpet. People need to talk about this stuff and get it out into the open. This is happening all the time, marital rape, and it's not right, and we need to speak up for these women who are going through this right now and say, stop this. This is not right. Economic or financial abuse, this is what they've written here. Remember, an abuser's goal is to control you, and he will frequently, they put he, but it could be she too, right? It's not just he. And your abuser will frequently use money to do so. Economic or financial abuse includes rigidly controlling your finances, withholding money or credit cards, making you account for every penny you spend, withholding basic necessities such as food, clothes, medications, and shelter. This happens, people. Restricting you to an allowance, preventing you from working or choosing your own career, sabotaging your job, making you miss work, calling in constantly, and stealing from you or taking your money. Now, I know people have gone through this, and I know even in my own family, my mother, when my parents were first married, went through this because my father was trying to control her. So, he, even when it came down to her physical health, he was not allowing her to get the proper medical assistance and was not allowing her to have control of the money or the food, and they didn't have anything. And when they were first married. So this stuff happens. It happens to people that it could be happening to someone right now that you know. And so it's very important to reach out to people around you who you think might be, suffering from domestic violence or domestic abuse, and reach out to them and be a friend, because this is not good, and we know it's happening all the time. You see stuff in the paper all the time, and usually what you see in the paper is when it comes down to murder, and then it's just too late, right? So don't wait for that. We'll just keep going here because there's I don't want to miss any of this information here. What's good here? Violent and abusive behavior is the abuser's choice. Despite what many people believe, domestic violence and abuse is not due to the abuser's loss of control over his behavior. In fact, abusive behavior and violence is a deliberate choice made by the abuser in order to control you. Abusers use a variety of tactics to manipulate you and exert their power. Dominance. They use dominance, humiliation, isolation, threats, intimidation, denial, and blame. And so they have a little wheel here, a power and control wheel. They have one too on here too as well. And you can go onto their website. That is www.helpguide.org to find this information. And if you'd like to phone in, this is Lori Smith on blogtalkradio.com and live streaming internet radio show. You can phone my guest call-in number if you have something you'd like to add to domestic violence, or if you have any resources, or just you just want to tell your story. Please do phone in. And the guest call-in number is 917-889-3736, and that's a U.S. number. And if you have something you'd like to add, please do. And I'm still check my chat window every now and then, and just to see who's there. Oh, I do have someone there. Hello, and welcome to the show. And I just hope that everyone's getting something out of this. We'll look at the cycle of violence in domestic abuse. Domestic abuse falls into a common pattern or cycle of violence. So this is abuse, guilt, normal behavior, and then fantasy and planning and setup. So we'll just look at this because this is interesting. Abuse. Your abusive partner lashes out with aggressive, belittling, or violent behavior. The abuse is a power play designed to show you who is boss. Guilt. After abusing you, your partner feels guilty, but not over what he or she has done. They are more worried about the possibility of being caught and facing consequences for their abusive behavior. So it's not really about feeling bad. It's not, they might tell you, oh, I'm so sorry, right? But actually it's really just because they're having to face the consequences for what they did, not because they hurt you, right? Normal behavior. Your abuser does everything they can to regain control and keep you in the relationship. They may act as if nothing has happened, or they may turn on the charm. And this peaceful honeymoon phase may give you hope that your abusive partner has really changed this time. So I've seen that firsthand. Actually, I've seen that with friends in their relationships with their boyfriends, and I've seen it in my own family with my sister. I've seen this with other people. Actually, this is just what happens, right? Your abuser, after they've gone and done what they've done and abused you, then they come across as, oh no, I'll change, I can change, and I love you, and they throw on the charm, and then everything's great for a little while, and give you the hope that, oh, maybe it was just a 1 or 2 time thing, not the norm, and they just lost control. They didn't know what they were doing. This is so typical, right? Oh, it wasn't their fault, and all this, right? Because when you love someone, you make excuses for them, right? And it's really easy to make excuses for someone you love and let them do what they're going to do, all be out of love, because love is so, that's the whole issue, and that's what's so great about love, right? It's right from the heart, and it means something, and it matters, right? And when the person that you love is hurting you, whether it's a man or a woman, it just doesn't matter. It really hurts. It's devastating. And then when they turn on the charm and they act like it's all going to be better and they'll never do it again. I've seen this with my friend's parents, actually. Then there's hope there. They're like, oh, well, it won't happen again, right? So fantasy and planning. Your abuser begins to fantasize about abusing you again. He spends a lot of time thinking about what you've done wrong and how he'll make you pay. Then he makes a plan for turning the fantasy of abuse into realities. And I didn't know that, so that's quite interesting, right? And the setup. Your abuser sets you up and puts his plan in motion, creating a situation where he can justify abusing you. Now, I know in my own situation, my mom was like that with me. She would set the scene up, and then knowing what I was going to do, and then go ahead and abuse me for it. So I've seen that in my own life, and I thought, man, that's bizarre behavior, but she really just wanted to lash out and keep lashing out, and that's what abusive people do. Your abuser's apologies and loving gestures in between the episodes of abuse can make it difficult to leave. He may or she may make you believe that you are the only person who can help them, that things will be different this time, and that they truly love you. However, the dangers of staying are very real. So the full cycle of domestic violence: a man or a woman abuses their partner, and after they hit them, they experience a self-directed guilt, and then they say, "I'm sorry for hurting you." And what they do not say is, because I might get caught. right? They don't say that. They just say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Then they rationalize their behavior by saying that their partner is having an affair with someone. And if they tell you you weren't such a worthless, you know what, I would hit you, right? So there's just so many things. Then they act contrite, reassuring you that they won't hurt you, and then they just go ahead and reflect on that, and they plan on doing it again. And then they withhold money and keep you sort of locked up in this relationship, right? So it's just horrible. Recognizing the warning signs of domestic violence and abuse. This is important. It says, I'm reading right from this page here from thehelpguide.org. It's impossible to know with certainty what goes on behind closed doors, but there are some telltale signs and symptoms of domestic violence and abuse. If you witness any warning signs of abuse in a friend, family member, or coworker, take them very seriously. And that's what I say. Take it seriously. You could save their life. This is so important. You could save a person's life. You know, if you see someone coming into work, you know, whether it be a man or a woman, and they look battered and they look confused and they look upset and they're crying, and they tell you, "Oh, it's nothing. I fell down," or "Oh, you know, I got into a car accident," and you know, you really have to be on the lookout for people around you, and especially, you know, if you really know these people, and you know it's someone that you work right with in your office and stuff. You want to make sure you step in, because you could save their life. Look at the paper. The papers around the country and around the world are full of this stuff, and you know, people being murdered because nobody did anything, and that's what I'm here talking to you about today. I mean, this has got to stop. People are dying, and we need to step up and take some responsibility. I know, you know, if I see anybody in this situation, I'm going to be ready to go and get the help for them. I'm going to step in, and I'll tell you why here, because there is some information regarding that. General warning signs of domestic abuse. People who are being abused may seem afraid or anxious to please their partner. They may go along with everything their partner says and does. I've seen that. They may check in often with their partner to report where they are and what they're doing. They may receive frequent harassing phone calls from the partner. They may talk to their partner, they may talk about their partner's temper, jealousy, or possessiveness. So, warning signs of physical violence. People who are being physically abused may have frequent injuries with the excuse of accidents, and frequently miss work, school, or social occasions without explanation. They might dress in clothing designed to hide bruises or scars, especially wearing long sleeves in the summer or sunglasses indoors. And now that's crazy. You see somebody wearing sunglasses indoors, you know there's a problem there, right? So just be on the lookout for people and be aware that this situation is happening right now all over the world, and not just in North America. Warning signs of isolation. People who are being isolated by their abuser may be restricted from seeing family and friends, rarely go out in public without their partner, and have limited access to money, credit cards, or the car. And the psychological warning signs of abuse. People who are being abused may have very low self-esteem, even if they're used to being confident. Even if they used to be confident. Let's say they were at one time very confident, and then all of a sudden they become kind of, you know, unconfident and have a low self-esteem. You know, there's probably a problem there. And show major personality changes. Outgoing woman becomes withdrawn. Outgoing man becomes withdrawn. They might be depressed, anxious, or suicidal. So it says, speak up if you suspect domestic violence or abuse. We have about 10 minutes left, and I sure hope that you're getting something out of this. I know I am. This is a great resource for domestic violence, and if you would like to phone in, my guest call-in number, 917-889-3736. And if you've just joined in recently, this is Lori Smith on blogtalkradio.com. Child abuse prevention and human rights abuse prevention is up to us. So that's what we're doing right now. Speak up if you suspect domestic violence or abuse. It says if you suspect that someone you know is being abused, speak up. If you're hesitating, telling yourself that it's none of your business. You might be wrong, or the man or woman might not want to talk about it. Keep in mind that expressing your concern will let the person know that you care and may even save their life. So this is so important. Talk to the person in private and let them know that you're concerned about their safety. Point out the things you've noticed that make you worried. Tell this person that when and if they want to talk about it, you're there for them. Reassure them that you'll Keep whatever they tell you between the two of you, and you know, you want them to know that they can trust you, right? That you're not going to go blabbing it all around the office, sort of thing, right? Or you're not going to blab it between the neighbors, let's say, right? So they need to know that they can trust you, right? And let them know that you're going to help them in any way that you can. And remember, abusers are very good at controlling and manipulating their victims. Abused and battered women are depressed, drained, men and women, are depressed, drained, scared, ashamed, and confused. They need help to get out, yet they have often been isolated from their family and friends. See, because, you know, the abuser obviously doesn't want anyone who's going to find out about it, first of all, around, so they keep family and friends away. And by picking up on the warning signs and offering support, you can help them escape an abusive situation and begin healing, and you can save their life. And that's what I'm telling you right today. This is something going on right now as we speak, and it will tonight because it's New Year's Eve. People are going to drink too much. The people are going to be stressed out about, you know, certain things in the family. And you know, holidays are really one of the big times for abuse in homes. And that is just so sad, but it is so true. And the stressful situations are just there. Oh, and I have a caller online, and I'll just go ahead and see who that is. Go ahead, area code 561. Hello, are you there? Area code 561?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, hi there.
Good morning. My name
is
Morgan. I'm in
Hello.
your chat room. I'm
Hi.
Molo.
How are you today?
I'm good. I
Excellent.
like what you're reading. I'm a forensic psychologist by trade, so
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I
excellent.
deal with abusive personalities on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is such good information. I just had to share it.
Absolutely. It's excellent, and I wish everyone took it to heart.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Usually I don't get to see the outcome of this action until they're in chains in lockup in a jail somewhere. And then
Right.
they're, you know, after doing subjective interviews and talking with these people, you find that most of them are predatory in nature. And although they may verbally say that they don't want to be that way, they really do. It's a sport for them in some cases.
Yeah, you know, you see that. I see just in my own search, in my own web searches and stuff. I see that information, and it is out there. That these people, there's just it's actually quite epidemic. It's a real problem.
The cycle of violence. For the listeners out there, Google the word cycle of violence or cycle of abuse. There's an entire chart there, which will give you a lot of great information.
That's
and I
awesome.
recommend everyone look at that and learn it.
Okay, Google. And want to repeat that?
Absolutely. Google the words cycle of violence or cycle of abuse.
Okay, I'm writing that down.
Show up. It's a circular, I'll try and describe it from memory. It's a circular pie chart, and it deals with all the signs and affects and situations involving abusive relationships and what they mean and how they can be responded, and recommendations for what you should do to counter them.
Oh, that's awesome. That's some great information. I'm so glad that you phoned in, because this is so important, and that's the thing. There needs to be there needs to be more public awareness, really. The only public awareness we're seeing is people dying in the paper or people getting arrested.
Well, I do a lot of public speaking at church groups. And this is one of the things on my slideshow that I show them. I said, look, you really need this. If you really want to find this quickly, it's on the APA website, the American Psychological Association website.
I've seen that, the APA. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. This is good information. I'm so glad that you phoned in. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a real pleasure talking to you.
You bet. Where are you? What part of the world?
I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Okay. Okay, I'm in Palm Beach, Florida.
Oh, nice. Sitting down there with the palm trees.
Yeah, a bit warmer here than where you are, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. We're in a bit of a looks like a freezer outside. It looks like a freezer that needs to be defrosted.
Yeah, I don't do 4-letter weather. Cold, snow, stuff like that. I stay down here.
I don't blame you. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I know. This just is such an important topic, and there's,
Can I
more.
ask you a question?
Sure.
How? I mean, are you a victim of abuse? Is that how you got into this?
Yes, I am. I am a victim of child abuse and secondhand domestic abuse, and I just, about 2 years ago, actually.
What was your wake-up call?
Oh, well, that's the thing. I was sitting watching a television program on TV about 2 years ago, and it was a woman that was in Afghanistan who was abused by her husband, and she wasn't going to have any pain medication. There was no hospital for her, and her face had been completely smashed in. And I thought, I just didn't like I couldn't believe that. I said, oh my God, there's going to be no pain medication or anything. And I thought, oh, that's terrible. And it just made me realize that, as somebody growing up in a home that was abusive, that I don't like what I see. So if I don't like it, I need to change it, and I need to start making, start doing something to get the word out. And that's really what started this. That was the catalyst for this, for just to get involved. I started taking some courses at a university up here on international community development and child rights. And it just sort of led one thing to another. And then just the Blog Talk Radio thing just came along, listening to another Blog Talk Radio program called Voices of Hope by hopeforhealing.org. And
I was to do a show with me on domestic abuse on my show called Current Premium Views.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
I will send you a connection email through BTR, and we'll
Sure.
work it out for, it's Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern my time, so that might be a little early for you, but I would love to do a 2-hour show on domestic abuse and have you as the guest.
That'd be awesome. I would be honored, and that'd be a privilege, let me tell you. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Doubt about that. I will, matter of fact, I'm going to put a email address in the chat room, and you can contact me, and we will work out the logistics of that.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, because I mean, the more people hearing this, the more chances that they'll get help. And if there's someone who's suffering from domestic violence or abuse, and if there's someone who has suffered in the past and doesn't know how to go about getting help, there's some. Yeah, this is some good information. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, go ahead and you're Laurie, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm Morgan.
Yeah.
Write down that email address that's in the chat room and send me an email, and we'll work out the logistics of it.
Okay.
And I'd love to have you as a guest, because I think what you're doing is more than urgent. It's the numbers never decline; they always go up.
Yeah, that's right, and you see it firsthand in your work, right? So you're seeing
I did 20 years in trauma medicine before I went back to school to become a psychologist. So I've seen it from both ends. I've talked to the women in the ER after we tried to rebuild them, and then, when I couldn't do trauma anymore, I went back to school and got a master's in forensic psychology. So I'm seeing it from both sides of the window.
Right. Wow, that's very interesting. Well, this is a great opportunity, and I appreciate it very much. That'll be great. So I'll be sure and email you, and we'll set that. We'll just do that.
Okay.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining, and I'm so glad that you came on, and that's some good information. I wrote that down: cycle of violence or of abuse, and also the APA website. So I've got that. So we'll pass that on. Thanks very much.
The thing is that there's so much rubbish on BTR that I really, when something positive comes along that really needs to be out there, I want to try and promote it as much as possible. And what you're doing is a godsend. I mean, I really very strongly believe in what you're doing. So
that's awesome. Thank you so much for the support, and I really appreciate it, because that's what we all need. We need to gather our voices together, and the more we can do it, the better off.
For sure.
Yeah, the better off we'll be.
There's intelligence and safety in numbers.
That's exactly right.
People feed on diverging people away from their protectors.
Mhm. That's right. So that's why we just need to keep talking and just keep getting it.
Is very dangerous in abuse.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they use as their tool.
Exactly. That's right. That's exactly why I thought, I'm just going to keep talking as long as I can, right? we need to keep talking as long as we can, because that's, everyone needs to stand up really and do it, and that's my thing. I'm just pushing for everyone to get involved.
I had a lady once tell me in the ER that she says, I've been doing this dance with this guy for 10 years, and he's beating me up worse and worse. And she was crying, and she said, I'm dancing as fast as I can, but I can't seem to dance my way out of this. And and I treated her. We kept her. She was in intensive care for a while, and then she got released and went home. And the next time I saw her, I pronounced her.
So, see, that's exactly why this needs to stop, and people need to become aware that there is help out there. Well, the show is over in about 10 seconds. We got about 10 seconds left.
Oh, okay, Laurie. Good talking with you.
Oh, it's so nice to talk to you. I'm glad that you phoned in. Thank you very much. And I'll be sending an email.
All right.
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year tomorrow. Bye-bye. Take care. Thanks, everyone.